people to leave South Africa alone. Okay, leave them alone. Well, Donald Trump doesn't want to leave them alone. In fact, he is now planning to cut funding to South Africa over land law. Of course, Elon Musk is also involved with this. He's criticized the country. So we're going to go to what is happening in South Africa and what Donald Trump is trying to do there. Let's get into this.
An attempt to resolve one of South Africa's most divisive issues, unequal land ownership. A bill signed last month allows land considered to be in the public interest to be expropriated without compensation in some cases. But it's a step that's led US President Donald Trump to threaten to cut off all funding to the country.
The leadership is doing some terrible things, horrible things. So that's under investigation right now. We'll make a determination. And until such time as we find out what South Africa is doing, they're taking away land, they're confiscating land.
The South African government responded swiftly, saying no land's been confiscated.
And this is what this law is about, to transform on a balance, on a just and equitable basis. And we look forward to engagement with our U.S. counterparts.
While the law may
So let me explain something what's happening here, right? You know, again, there's colonization that took place in South Africa. Black South Africans own very little percentage of the land. White South Africans own, I believe, is about 80% or a little bit more than 80% of the land. The land that Black South Africans want back, it's their land. The land was stolen from them. So it's really interesting that Donald Trump is complaining about Black South Africans asking for their land back. And he said they're trying to confiscate the land from the white South Africans. But he's giving money and aid to Benjamin Netanyahu to confiscate the land in the West Bank from the Palestinians. So, honey, again, when I say it's out of control, it's out of control, okay? Because you can't throw stones in a glass house. Everybody notice what is going on around here? You cannot do this. But it's happening. Elon Musk, don't forget, a part of the Trump administration. So do not forget, Elon Musk is from South Africa. He's a part of this too. He wants this to happen. Let's continue.
makes it easier for the government to expropriate land, legal guidelines ensure the payment of fair market value and property owners can go to court. Some people are worried the new law will mean their land will be seized by the government. And the spat is playing out on social media platforms like X, where owner and US presidential advisor Elon Musk is accusing the South African government of racist policies.
Okay, and this, if this is not the pot meat in the kettle, how is Elon accusing the South African government of racist policies when you grew up in this apartheid state where you guys gave crap to the Black South Africans and you took majority of all the resources? Does everybody see what is happening here? How can you blame this? You cannot point fingers here at Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa said South Africa is a constitutional democracy that is deeply rooted in the rule of law, justice, and equality. So he's saying we didn't confiscate any land. And Elon Musk is saying, why do you have openly racist ownership laws? Who was in charge in South Africa? What was Nelson Mandela fighting for? Think about this. He wanted the apartheid to end. Did Elon Musk stand up to white South Africans and say, why do we have such racist policies? No. In fact, he fled. It's hypocrisy at this point. It's crazy, you guys. We live in a cartoon.
The minority white population owns 3/4 of farming land in South Africa, while black people, who make up 80% of the population, own 1/4.
The original land deal that gave 87% of the land to the whites and 13% to the majority was unjust and wrong, but that you find a way to compensate and to deal with the transition to, and one way is to focus on public land.
Previously, in a public address, President Cyril Ramaphosa told Trump to stay out of South Africa's plans for land reform. While the presidency says US aid to South Africa is not significant, Trump's latest comments have had an impact. As soon as Trump said he would cut off funding to South Africa, the local currency, the rand, weakened by more than 1%. Now, stocks and government bonds also took a slump. While there are also concerns existing tariff agreements with South Africa on exports to the US may be affected, President Ramaphosa said he's not worried about relations with the country.
This is another example here of, again, support for the colonial powers. Lai says blacks are the majority. Seems this issue would have been solved after all these years. What the hell is going on? Right. For those who are not aware, black people are the majority in South Africa, but again, this is another episode of colonialism. And now what it sounds like to me is that now that Elon Musk is a part of Donald Trump's administration, it seems like to me, Elon Musk is trying to rewrite some things. That's what it seems like. And you got to make up your mind, fam. Because I mean, my whole thing is like, Elon Musk, that was your country that you grew up in where you lived pretty well because you were on the other side of apartheid. You weren't on the side that was being oppressed. So what this shit is crazy. Do you guys understand? A little bit more history here about what happened with the land. I want to get into this as well. What's behind South Africa's land policy? Listen to this.
Equality, President Ramaphosa expropriate land in the public interest, which could include instances of expropriation without compensation. The law has been controversial, especially within Ramaphosa's coalition government, which includes the mostly whitely led Democratic Alliance, that is the DA. However, no land has yet been expropriated under the new law. South Africa's land issue is deeply rooted in its colonial and apartheid history. During British colonial rule, most farmland was given to white settlers, and under 1950 apartheid system, the Afrikaner National Party passed legislation that allocated 85% of the country's territory to whites.
Sorry about that, guys. Let me just come out. It does this sometimes.
A National Party passed legislation that allocated 85% of the country's territory to whites.
I don't know why YouTube does this sometimes. I'm sorry, guys. We'll get to it. Let me see where I was now.
Still hold led a Democratic Alliance, that is the DA. However, no land has yet been expropriated under the new law. South Africa's land issue is deeply rooted in its colonial and apartheid history. During British colonial rule, most farmland was given to white settlers, and under 1950 apartheid system, the Afrikaner National Party passed legislation that allocated 85% of the country's territory to whites while forcibly removing 3.5 million black South Africans from their ancestral land.
Does this sound familiar? It sounds like what happened to the Palestinians, right? British came in, British colonial rule comes in and says, oh, again, even though they are the majority, let's move them out and give most of the land to the colonizers. So this been going on, fam. Been going on.
Since the end of apartheid and the African National Congress, that is the ANC, coming to power in 1994, some land restitution has occurred under a willing buyer, willing settler model. However, this process has been criticized for its slow pace and the accusations that white landowners are hoarding land, hindering meaningful reform. The new expropriation law seeks to speed up the process and address these historic imbalances, but it remains highly divisive. The expropriation law has been the subject of intense debate for years, with critics arguing that it violates constitutional property rights and could deter foreign investment. The Democratic Alliance, which is South Africa's main opposition party, has been particularly vocal in its opposition, asserting that the law is unconstitutional. On Monday, the DA issued a statement addressing Trump's comments, clarifying that the Expropriation Act does not allow for arbitrary land seizures.
Let me pause here for a second, because another thing that I want to add is that, and I'm thinking about what's happening with South Africa. South Africa is a part of BRICS. So this is where I would want the other BRICS nations to jump in and get involved. You see what I mean? Don't forget also with this attack on South Africa, it was South Africa that brought Israel to the ICJ. Remember that. They brought Israel to The Hague. So there's a number of moving pieces here. I think Elon is a part of this. I would not be surprised if Israel has something to do with this as well. But this is kind of their way of getting back at South Africa. And it's just an absolute disaster. And I just really want those other countries that are part of BRICS to step up, right? When one of your brothers is hit, you guys should form like Voltron or like the Avengers and help out, because this is insane. This is absolutely insane. A little bit more here.
Instead, it mandates that land can only be expropriated if it is proven to be in the public interest, and authorities must first attempt to reach an agreement with the landowner. After years of parliamentary discussions, the law's wording has been carefully crafted to ensure that land expropriation is carried out in a controlled and transparent manner. However, its implementation remains contentious with both political and public opposition. In 2023, the United States committed approximately $440 million in aid to South Africa, with the bulk of funding directed towards health initiatives, particularly HIV/AIDS.
Yeah, then they go into the health implications there. We need to leave these countries alone. Again, this is out of control. It's insane to me that they're seriously thinking about, well, let's intervene there and stop the Black South Africans from having their land. This is insane. For Elon Musk is on Twitter praising apartheid. Everybody get that? Elon Musk is on Twitter praising apartheid. I tried to tell people who this guy was, and so many people got excited. They're like, he's taking over Twitter. He's for free speech and da-da-da-da. It's just more colonialism, man. More colonialist like policies. It's insane. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.